Hey, what's going on everyone? Today I'm going to be talking about Zombie, Spooky Girl, and the other spooky characters that are currently in the game, as well as the Trader Transport. I'm going to talk about where I think that faction is going to go, and if it has potential to become the meta sometime down the road. So we'll start off by talking about Zombie since his event is currently running. I think it started 1 or 2 days ago. So yeah, the way an unboxed event works is as long as you're like over level 20, you basically get a free 2-star character, whatever the character is, as long as you just complete a few battles. It's pretty easy, not too difficult, but the character is stuck at 2 stars. And if you want to take them any higher, you have to spend gems in the store right here. So if you actually want to take an unboxed character to 7 stars, it's actually pretty cheap in this game when comparing it to other similar games. I believe the total comes right around to $110 if you want to take this guy all the way to 7 stars. So yeah, it is relatively cheap, but is it worth like 110 bucks? The answer is no, it's not worth it. He's not like in the useless category, but I think he's still really missing a lot. I think he is gonna need a rework at some point, because currently he just doesn't really do much. Let's go to the character real quickly. Here he is. So his basic attack, when maxed, deals 110% damage and has a 40% chance to copy 1 debuff from himself to them. And then his only other ability, his special ability, deals 100% damage, and Zombie heals for 50% of the damage dealt. And even at 7 stars, his damage isn't great. It's not the worst in the game, but it's also nothing near like Kai or Highwayman or Firefighter Ash, or even really like Zane. So this ability is not going to be healing him a whole lot, and it's also a 3-turn cooldown. And then his passive, this is like really the only interesting thing about this character. There's a lot of potential here, but nothing really great yet. He starts the battle with 1 stack of Revive, and when Zombie is defeated and has 1 or more stacks of Revive, currently there's no way for him to gain more. He can only have that 1 stack. He has a 100% chance to reassemble at 100% health, and then that 1 stack of Revive is cleared. So in a way, it's really just like he has double his health. That's really what this ability could say. I think if there was a way for him to regain that Revive, he would actually be useful, especially if he had a taunt. Or you could use him with Brutus, and you could use Brutus to put the taunt on Zombie, and if he had a way to regain Revive, it wouldn't matter if he died, because then he could regain it, and he could just keep getting attacked, and he could just keep coming back. Then it would really start to get interesting. But when he has pretty mediocre attack, no taunt, and no way to gain Revive again, I think he's just not that great of a character. And he's also missing other spooky characters to work around him in a full spooky team, and there something interesting might be able to happen, especially if a spooky character was added to the game that could synergize with Zombie and maybe give him another way to gain Revive. Currently, the only other spooky character that most people will have access to is Spooky Girl. Now, when she's at 7 stars, she can actually do some pretty good damage. I've seen her AoEs get to like up to 3.5 on a critical hit, which is actually some really solid damage. And her basic attack is pretty good as well. And what does this ability do again? I don't even remember now. At level 5, she deals 120% damage, and then she gains stealth for 2 turns, and at the end of her turn, if the foe had less than 70% health, they're inflicted with Confused, and if they already had Confused, then Spooky Girl heals for 10% of her max health for each active spooky hero. So right there again is more synergy with spooky characters, but we only have 2 that are easily accessible, and even then you can't take them above 2 stars unless you're willing to spend on gems. And then her passive ability, I don't remember what this one does either. At the start of combat, all spooky heroes, again, more synergy with spooky characters. They gain crit chance up 2 for 3 turns. That's actually pretty good. And whenever Spooky Girl gains stealth, and has no other buffs, a random spooky hero gains prepared, which means their next attack will be a critical hit. So again, a lot of potential here. And the only other spooky character we currently have that it is possible to get is Willa the Witch. But you can only get tiles for her from, actually it doesn't show it right there, but you can get her from the Master Shop, which is all the way at the bottom here. You can get her tiles right here. Now the conversion rate for the Master Shop is pretty bad in my opinion. I think this does need to be changed a bit. Currently, for every 1 character tile that you have extra, so if you have a character at 7 stars and you get another tile for them, it will be converted into 5 master tiles. But you need 600 master tiles just to get 3 tiles for Willa the Witch, which means you need 40 extra tiles to just get 1 Willa tile. And to get Willa max to 7 stars, if I did my math correctly, it's 17,700 extra tiles just to get her to 7 stars. That's absolutely absurd, and in my opinion, that definitely needs to be changed or something, because that is way too much. So obviously you can see why she is so exclusive and why very, very few people are going to have that character unlocked, and fewer still will have her at 7 stars, but her kit is actually really nice. Let's take a look at this real quickly. Her basic ability deals 100% damage, and there's a 50% chance to inflict grit down. That's, I mean, whatever. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Her first special ability deals 30% damage to all foes. That's a pretty low damage number, but it has a 50% chance to convert all of their stats and heal-based buffs to their debuff equivalents for each foe. That's crazy powerful. So if enemies have attack up and maybe crit chance up, that's immediately turned into attack down and crit chance down. So while the actual ability itself doesn't do a lot of damage, it's really going to help your team because it's going to completely flip their buffs. And then I assume for buffs like stealth that don't really have an opposite, like they don't really have a debuff equivalent, I think they'd probably just be cleared. I'm not sure on that one, but if it does clear, then that would be an effective way to remove Lloyd's stealth. And then her other special ability right here clears all debuffs from target foe, which might seem counterproductive, but it then deals 110% damage plus 10% bonus damage for each debuff cleared. And if the target is defeated, reduce Curse cooldown by 5. Curse is this ability right here that flips buffs. So that's potentially a lot of damage if you use these two abilities in tandem. If you use her buff flipping ability, and then maybe you use Redbeard's ultimate, and then you use this one, that's an insane amount of damage, because Redbeard will apply a ton of debuffs, and then her special ability right here can also, like I said earlier, flip buffs to debuffs, so that's potential right there for a lot of damage. And then her passive ability, this gets interesting with another character that we'll talk about in just a second. At the start of Willa's turn, if Basil the Bat Lord has been defeated, reassemble and heal him for 20% of his max health. We'll come back to this ability in a minute when we talk about that character. But her ultimate is also kind of crazy. Clears all buffs from all foes, so that definitely will remove stealth, and heals all heroes for 35% of their max health, plus 5% bonus heal for each buff cleared, and then spooky heroes gain attack up 1 for 2 turns. So that has potential to be literally a 100% heal if there's enough buffs on the field. Because even if each hero just has 1 buff, that's immediately 25% more heal. So she is really going to shut down any teams that rely heavily on buffs, like Ninjago and maybe even Space. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Okay, but now let's talk about that character that I just mentioned, Basil the Bat Lord, this guy right here. He is not currently obtainable, so there is no way to get his tiles. Maybe he'll be available from our first raid. Maybe he'll be available from Brickspedition. I don't know. Maybe he'll even be a master event. But currently there is no way to get his tiles. Another reason why the spooky team isn't really viable right now. But his basic ability, let's take a look at this. 100% damage to target foe, and he heals for 20% of the damage dealt. You'll see with his kit, he's all about survivability. He has a lot of healing elements baked into this kit. His second ability right here, it consumes 20% of his max health, and then he heals all heroes for 30% of his max health. So he kind of sacrifices some health from himself to heal up his allies, but this isn't really going to matter, and you'll see why in just a second. And then all active castle heroes gain attack up 1 for 2 turns. And by the way, Willa and Basil are both classified as castle characters as well, and also Fright Knight, which is a pretty rare tag I haven't seen on a lot of characters. But yeah, attack up 1 to all castle heroes. And then his second special ability deals 60% damage to all foes and has a 40% chance to heal Basil for 20% of the total damage dealt. So an AoE attack and then healing based on damage dealt is going to equal a lot of healing. I wouldn't be surprised if this easily will heal him up to full health every time he uses it. And then he'll gain taunt for 2 turns. So he's a taunting character that also heals himself up a lot. Whenever Basil is defeated, he heals all other heroes for 30% of their max health and grants them defense up 1 for 2 turns. And that's every single time he's defeated. And then his ultimate ability right here, he clears all buffs from all foes and heals heroes for 65% of their max health and grants them payback for 3 turns and attack up 1 for 3 turns as well. Okay, there's a lot of info here. Let's try to break this down. So he's going to be healing allies whenever he dies. Whenever Basil is defeated, he heals all other heroes for 30% of their max health. This isn't limited to just Castle or Spooky, it's any of them. And if we remember Willa's passive, let's go to her really quickly. And at level 5, at the start of Willa's turn, if Basil the Bat Lord has been defeated, reassemble him and heal him for 20% of Basil's max health. And that's at the start of every single one of Willa's turns. So Basil is just going to keep coming back after he is defeated, and then if you defeat him again, he's just going to heal everyone up again. And he's also taunting, so you might be forced to attack him. Another interesting thing is that his ultimate will give payback for 3 turns, and thanks to Magisto's passive, whenever a castle hero counterattacks, they will recover a bunch of health. So that right there is going to lead to more damage, but also a lot of health recovery, and then they also gain attack up, so they'll be doing more damage on those counterattacks. Also, this ability right here might actually be a much larger heal, so he consumes 20% of his own max health, and he heals all heroes for 30%. But if he is under 20% when you use this ability, I assume it would defeat him, which would be a 30% heal plus this heal right here, which at max level is 30%. So that would be a 60% heal if you use that ability when he's under 20%. And then Willa could just bring him back, and then he could be defeated again, and he could taunt, forcing you to attack him. There's a lot of interesting mechanics here, and we're not done yet. There is still the Trader Transport, the Spooky set, which is one of the best sets in the game currently, top 3 definitely. The basic ability right here at the max level, Castle heroes have their attack increased by 20%, that's quite a bit, and their max health increased by 15%. All other heroes have their attack increased by 10%. So more attack and more heal, that's really powerful. The next ability right here, when a spooky hero deals damage to a foe, they have a 50% chance to heal for 15% of the damage dealt. Other heroes have a 25% chance. So again, that's more healing right there. We'll skip the third ability for now. Let's go to the fourth one real quickly. When a Fright Knight hero deals damage to a foe, they have a 40% chance to inflict Disarmed on them for 2 turns, which stops them from using their special abilities. If the target already had Disarmed, inflict Stun instead for 1 turn. A 40% chance for literally any Fright Knight attack seems pretty high. And then here's where it just gets even crazier. Whenever Basil the Bat Lord is defeated, there's a 25% chance to inflict Disarmed on each foe for 1 turn, plus 10% bonus chance for each debuff on that foe. All Fright Knight heroes heal for 20% of their max health, so more healing, but also this chance to inflict Disarmed, which completely stops enemies from using their special abilities and also their ultimate abilities. 25% chance might seem low, but even if they just have 2 debuffs, that jumps up to a 45% chance, and if they have 3, that's immediately over 50% chance that they'll get that Disarmed, and that's very likely because of Willa, who will be flipping buffs into debuffs. So right now I'm thinking that Jester, Barnabas, Magisto, Basil, and Willa, paired with the Trader Transport set, would be pretty much unbeatable. So many heals, taunting, counterattacks, obviously the revives with Basil, the heals on passives with Magisto, the 3 ultimates on that team. That would just be absolutely insane. And then there'll be some kind of mix there that'll work well on offense, because I think the existing spooky characters don't have a lot going for them in the ways of damage. They do have a couple abilities that give them attack up, but no huge damage dealers like Highwayman. So maybe it would be interesting to use Basil, Willa, Spooky Girl, Highwayman, and Magisto. That could be a solid team. There'd be health recovery on counterattacks thanks to Magisto. Basil and Willa would be doing their thing. Spooky Girl would be there to just be another spooky character and also do some decent AoE damage. And then Highwayman is there to do the big damage. So yeah, I think the spooky characters have a lot of potential, especially if Zombie, if there's a way for him to regain a revive. If that enters the game, he's going to become a really amazing character, especially if he gains a taunt as well. And if not, you could just use him with Brutus, and also there are currently only 4 spooky characters, so it's very likely that they will add a 5th, maybe one that's also a Fright Knight as well for just more synergy, and maybe that 5th could be an attacker similar to Highwayman. So do I think that a spooky team has potential to be meta? Yes, in like a year. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, because Basil isn't even accessible, Willa is an insanely difficult farm, Zombie needs a rework, and Zombie and Spooky Girl aren't even farmable right now. It'll probably be a few months before we can even start getting tiles for them, and even after that, it'll be a few months. But as we've just seen, there is crazy amounts of potential with that team, and I think maybe by this time next year, I would not be surprised if there's a spooky Fright Night Castle team that is one of the best in the entire game, if not the best. Alright, well that's probably going to do it for this video. A lot of information in this one. Basil probably has one of the most complex, if not the most complex kits in this entire game, and pair him with Willa and the Trader Transport, and there's just so much going on. But yeah, alright, thanks for watching.